Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another mock draft. Today, I'll be doing a two-person mock draft featuring another draft connoisseur, Ethan. I'm going to be doing the odds. He's going to be doing the evens. Ethan, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Dean.
Yes, sir, of course. We are not going to do trades today. We're just going to do it as it is. And let's just hop right into it, starting with the first pick with the Carolina Panthers. We all know they're going quarterback. And I do think that of the four quarterbacks, every quarterback is an option for them. But if I was a betting man today, I think they're drafting Bryce Young. And I think they go Bryce Young. He's not my quarterback one, he's my quarterback two. You know that, but they are a team that wants to compete now, especially in their division. It's very weak. They are probably the best team once they draft Bryce Young because Bryce is the most pro-ready guy. If he had 3 more inches and 20 more pounds, he would be easily the best player in this draft. But the size is a concern, but I do think he'll be in a good situation there at Carolina. Good offensive line. He has veteran wide receivers. And I think they compete immediately in that division, probably make the playoffs, and they're a team that's it's only going to get better.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like the Panthers, the rest of the roster is ready to compete, so the Bryce Young pick makes a lot of sense. And with Bryce Young off the board, I think the Houston Texans have to take a look in the mirror and realize that they have the worst roster in football. Nick Caserio, he knows the defensive line's not very good. The secondary's not very good besides Derek Stingley. The O-line's all right. They got the best left tackle in football. But the rest of the 3 prospects, are any of them severely better than Davis Mills in the short-term future? I don't really think so. So I think they're going to go with Will Anderson, the edge out of Alabama. And the reason why I say this is I think they need another cornerstone piece on that defense. They've got Jerry Hughes, who had a really great year last year, but he's getting up there in age. And besides that, I think Davis Mills is not a bad option, and I think next year they're going to have 2 great quarterback prospects that are better than the rest of the 3 on the board. And I think overall, this would be the right selection.
I absolutely agree. I did this in my last mock draft. I don't think any of the like, you know me, I love Anthony Richardson. I don't think he develops very well there in Houston. I don't think he fits what Houston wants to do offensively. D'Amico Ryan's coming from San Francisco. CJ Stroud might make sense, but again, is he all that much better than Davis Mills right now? I disagree. And Will Anderson is, as of right now, the best player in this draft. I still think Jalen Carter is, but we all know why currently he's not the best player in this draft. So I think it's a great pick. Going to the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are in an interesting spot because in a mock draft with trades, I think I'm trading out of this pick almost every time, especially if Will Anderson's off the board. But since he's not, if I were to make a pick right now, I think corner's on the table, considering Marco Wilson is their number 1 corner right now, which is very unfortunate. But if I were to make a pick right now, I'm going to take a guy that I have the same grade as Will Anderson on him, and that's Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson is going to have a really long, successful NFL career with that athleticism, the size, and the length that he possesses. He has a really high floor for a player, as well as having an extremely high ceiling as well. You can kind of compare him to Trayvon Walker from last year. I do think Walker was a better athlete for sure, but he's going to provide a high floor, high ceiling kind of guy. And not to mention that Cardinals team just needs so much help everywhere, offensively, defensively. Gannon, defensive guy. Go get probably the best player on the board. You needed something, and this is a great pick.
Yeah, I was trying to debate what you were going to go with. And yeah, that team, well, when you take linebacker in the first round for like 3 years in a row, that's what's going to happen to your roster. Yeah, no, Tyree Wilson, I love him as a prospect. I have him a little down behind Will Anderson, but it makes sense. It's a good pick. And then at 4 with the Indianapolis Colts, you put me in a really interesting position. Because I think they're going to go quarterback, obviously, with their new head coach, offensive-minded Shane Steichen, if I'm pronouncing that correct.
It's something like that.
Yeah. And I, as a Giant fan, I got to see him in Philadelphia and develop Jalen Hurts to just incredibly well done progression. And I think this is a great fit for Anthony Richardson. And I am not as high on Anthony Richardson as as most of the world. I think obviously the potential is there, the arm talent, but I have real major concerns about the accuracy, and just I really wish he would have stayed another year at Florida. But with the dual threadedness and just the cannon that comes off his right arm, I think this is the right pick. I think the Colts. I believe they have Nick Foles on the roster still, but they're definitely going to need to add another piece so Anthony Richardson has time to develop. I think the Colts are also like with a roster that they have a good defense, but the O line's a little all over the place. So they have time where they can even throw Anthony Richardson out there and like, look, throw your interceptions, progress. Because I really think the Jaguars really own that division for the next 1 or 2 years. So they're going to have time to progress as a team.
Yeah, I love this fit. I think of any team other than maybe Detroit at 6, if Richardson were to fall that far, it's probably the best fit. Steichen's going to get the best out of him out of any coach, at least, that has a realistic shot of drafting Richardson. So again, great pick. To Seattle. I think you were really hoping for Will Anderson to fall or Tyree Wilson to fall, and neither of them did. So, what do you do if you're Seattle? Do you take a chance on Jalen Carter? I don't think so. I think there's a culture there that they want to keep intact. And, man, I'm in a tough spot. I think corner's on the table once again. But I think that interior line was a pretty big issue last year. And it might be a little high, but I'm going to take Skoronski right here. And I'm going to make him a guard because I think he projects a lot better as a guard in the NFL. And again, it's a matter of put Geno in the absolute best condition to succeed. Give him all the time in the world behind an offensive line. He's going to be thrown to DK Metcalf, and who knows, maybe you draft a receiver later in the first round, and he's just going to be dealing. That was the biggest problem with the offense, I thought, last year was interior offensive line. And Skoronski, I mean, this guy's going to play for 11 years and at a very high level. So that's my pick for him.
Yeah, no, I love Skoronski. I project him as a guard, but honestly, I thought Rashawn Slater coming out of Northwestern was also a guard, and he's proven me wrong. So I believe in the player, and he's going to be in the league for 10 to 12 years, and he's going to do a really good job. I was hoping he was going to follow the Eagles for me at 10, but you take him there. With the 6th pick, I thought I was going to go corner here because I thought the three best defensive players were going to be off the board, but I think you got to take Jalen Carter. I'm not in those meetings. I'm just a guy on the YouTube channel, but Jalen Carter is the best defensive player in this draft. I get high Jeffrey Simmons vibes. I see a little Dexter Lawrence in there. He's gonna cause problems, and the Lions they went heavy on the edge prospects last year, and they struggled on defense with the run, and I think Jalen Carter really is going to be a quick fix for that. And I think they're building a culture there, as we all know, and I think this could be a really good place for him if he does have those character issues and concerns. This would be the place to fix that.
Absolutely. Jalen Carter is the best player in this draft from a skill set standpoint. He's just amazing. There's not really another word you could say for him. He could have gone 1 for all if things didn't happen the right way. But again, we don't know what teams think about him. You see his agent refusing to talk to teams outside of the top 10 when there's a very real shot. I don't think it happens that he could fall out of the top 10. The things that have happened this offseason are weird. A bad pro day, which that's the last thing you ever want to see. That's in a controlled environment you got to succeed in. All the off the field issues. So if he succeeds in Detroit, that Detroit defensive line is very scary. Very, very scary. Now going to the Raiders. Now they have the choice between 2 quarterbacks, when a lot of people might not think there will be the choice. And for the Raiders, I'm going to take Will Levis. And I take it, and I'm going to say this, is not because I don't think C.J. Stroud is smart. I think Will Levis is right up there with Bryce Young when it comes to reading the field. And the Raiders offense, the Patriots pseudo offense, it's very complicated. I think this is the guy you want. He can sit for a bit, not that I think he needs to. He can sit for a bit behind Jimmy Garoppolo and develop, and then he'll go into that system, throwing to Devontae Adams. And that Kentucky team was awful. The team he played on was very bad. When you watch the film, it's almost hard to watch sometimes because he's getting hit every single play. So I think the transition to the NFL is going to be, he might have an easier time in the NFL because he probably won't be getting hit every play. So I think it's a great fit for the Raiders, and I think it's the dream fit for Levis himself.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Levis guy, and I think his not this past season, but the year prior with Liam Cohen as his OC, I thought that was the Will Levis you want to see in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, he does not have the talent around him, but I just think he's a prototypical pro style passer, and I think a good year behind Jimmy would be great. And I think the Josh McDaniel style, if he's still there after a year,
Yeah.
will be would be a good fit for him. And I'm surprised that CJ Stroud is still available. But like honestly, if I was the Raiders GM and I had my choice, I'd go Will Levis as well.
Absolutely.
And then you give me 8 at the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons they're interesting, man. I'm a big Arthur Smith guy. I loved him in Tennessee. I think he's one of the reasons that they've not been as good the last 2 years. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like Desmond Ridder coming out of the league and coming out of college. And then this past year, if I'm gonna be completely honest, I have not watched Desmond Ridder. But do I believe he has a higher ceiling than CJ Stroud? No. Do I think he's better at the moment than CJ Stroud? No. And I think you look at the Atlanta Falcons, they've got a solid O-line. They've got potential weapons if they actually use them in Kyle Pitts and Drake London. And I think it's a perfect setup for a young, talented quarterback that needs to develop, and I think CJ Stroud's the pick.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. CJ Stroud is my QB4, and it's not because of he does all the things right. He is I think he's the most accurate pure passer in this class. He reads the field just fine. He's not some statue in the pocket like some people say. But that transition from Ohio State to the NFL is a tough transition. You're throwing to 4 first-round wide receivers at your 2 years starting. What was it? Olave and Wilson didn't play in that bowl game, and then you were throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jackson Smith-Njigba, which is crazy. But I think this is a great fit for CJ Stroud. I think he's going to succeed most in a play-action style system, and they want to run the ball, and he can just step back, have a clean pocket, and deliver an accurate pass to Kyle Pitts or Drake London. I think it's a great fit. Now going to the Bears. I think you got to go tackle if you're the Bears, and the tackle that I think fits the most is Paris Johnson Jr. And that's just because I think from a run blocking standpoint, he's probably the best behind Skoronski, if you were to project him at tackle, of the tackles available. And that's what you're going to want to do if you're Chicago. You want to run and also do play action, just like CJ Stroud and the Falcons. Paris Johnson Jr. I think has some things he needs to work on. I think his feet are a little. He's not as good with his feet as some other people would say. At least that's what I saw. His hand placement needs a little bit of work, but from a run blocking standpoint, I think he's an athlete that you could definitely develop those traits into. So it's not a big deal, and he automatically makes that offensive line better. So.
Yeah, no, when I started watching the tackles, Paris Johnson was my first to watch, and I was like, well, he's not that great. And then I watched the rest of them, and I was like, oh, he's probably the greatest out of the bunch. But yeah, I also saw the feet issue, but man, is he big, and man, does he have the potential to be a great left tackle. The Bears obviously need O-line help. I wouldn't be surprised if they did their pick with their heart rather than their head, and they went wide receiver. Like, I think that very subtly could happen.
Yeah.
But you've left me in a position where like I have no idea what I'm going to do as an Eagle, because I think Howard Roseman has shown that he loves going offensive defensive line. He prioritizes it, and that's the reason they played in the Super Bowl last year. Obviously, they've got 2 great tackles. Right tackle Lane Johnson getting up there in age. They have the problem at guard. They have major needs at safety and slot corner. But I really don't see – I don't think Brian Branch would be worth the pick up here. And then I don't think tackle's the pick either. So I think you just go and take a corner. I think Darius Slay obviously restructured contract. You don't know how long he's there for. Same thing with Bradbury. And I think right in here, they're going to take Devin Witherspoon. My thing is with Devin Witherspoon, and then he's been marked as the number 1 corner prospect. I've gone back and forth with Joey Porter Jr. I'm a big Joey Porter Jr. guy, but I think Witherspoon definitely fits the Eagles a lot better than Porter does. I'm worried about his hand placement. A little sticky hands after 5 yards off the catch, but he's a good corner, and the feet are awesome, and he can definitely play some slot corner for you. So I think it's a good pick here.
I agree. You could play some. You could play him at safety if you wanted to. He's just that rangy, that athletic, and it's always good to stack up on corners. As much as they re-sign the two, they're both getting older and up there. You don't know what injury could happen, and he could slot right in if he needed to. Going to Tennessee, they're in a very interesting spot. I think in a real draft, they're trading up for a quarterback. I truly believe that. But at this position, I think you need offensive line. That offensive line is not very good. You just lost Taylor Lewan, and I think you go and draft a tackle. And that tackle, I think, is Broderick Jones. I'm a big Broderick Jones fan. I have him. I don't have him above Paris Johnson Jr., but I think I like him a bit more just from a projection standpoint, because if he develops, the feet is there. His feet are very good, but he struggles with his hand placement, and sometimes that play strength doesn't show up in the run game, but I think he's going to be a good fit in Tennessee. He doesn't need to be great immediately because this team is not going to be all that good next year. At least I don't think so. So take a developmental tackle prospect. Hopefully he can get better in the coming years.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. Broderick Jones, I like. I mean, he's not a love it prospect for me, but I wonder if Tennessee has any second thoughts about taking another tackle from the University of Georgia. You know, it hasn't worked out for them in the past. But yeah, no, it's a good pick. And then we go over to the Houston Texans at 12, and obviously I talked about them at pick 2. They got their edge piece in Will Anderson. I think they go offense, and I think they get Davis Mills, that wide receiver X that he is dying out for, and give it one last year and see if he's ready. And if it doesn't work out, you know, you have a star wide receiver ready for a potential Caleb Williams or Drake May type of quarterback. And the question is what wide receiver do you take? In my opinion, Jackson Smith-Njigba is the number one wide receiver, but I don't think he's actually would be a great fit. And I think you look back at Kazirio's draft history there in Houston with taller wide receivers, and then even back in New England with the N'Keal Harry pick. I think they might take Quentin Johnson at this pick. They don't have to leave the state. They go right up to Fort Worth, and they nab the big number one wide receiver. I think it's a good fit. I worry about Quentin Johnson. There's plays where he just looks amazing. If you picked 2 or 3 plays out of every single game he played this year, you're looking at a top 5 pick. But he plays the full game, and he just disappears at some point. He also has major hand issues. There's a lot of drops there, like a lot. And I'm surprised not as many people have talked about it. But I watched him. He was one of my earlier watches. I watched the wide receivers and the O-lines first off, and that stood out to me. So he's definitely a worrying pick. But like if it all works out, I mean, he could be a stud. And I think that's where the Texans go with pick 12.
Right. So going to the Jet, I think it's a great pick. Quentin Johnson's my wide receiver 1. I think the disappearing, because he does have drop issues. I think he needs to work on his concentration, catches, but the disappearing acts, I think, have, at least in my opinion, have to do with Max Duggan more than it has to do with him. I think if Max Duggan was a good quarterback, he has an extra 500 yards or so. Because I watched some plays and I'm like, why did you not throw that? Why didn't she do that? But I think it's a great pick. You know, he who knows? Maybe Davis Mills balls out this year. The chance that he probably doesn't. Drake May or Caleb Williams gets to come in and throw to potentially an elite wide receiver behind a good offensive line. So I like the pick. Going to the Jets. Jets are in a weird spot now. You were hoping to get a top tackle, and of the tackles left, is there anybody worth taking here? And I think you do take one because the Patriots, who are right behind them, are also looking for a tackle. And you might want to take that away from a division rival. And Mekhi Becton, he's been injured the last couple of years. You need some stability there. And at this spot, I think you take Anton Harrison. I like Harrison a lot. I think from a pass protection standpoint, he is the best of the tackles in this draft. He is good athlete as well, good in the run game, not quite as good as, let's say, Paris Johnson Jr., but you get some stability on the offensive line. He could play either left or right side. And you take him away from the Patriots, which is a big deal.
Yeah, no, I love Anton Harrison. Yeah, he's right up there. I think he's tackle 2 in my opinion. I wouldn't, as a Patriot, like in a hypothetical situation, I'm not looking tackle, but Anton Harrison has Commanders painted all over him in my mind. Like I just see him, whether it's being from the University of Oklahoma like Trent Williams, but like I just see him as a Commander. I don't know why, I can't explain it, but that's where I would have thought he would have gone. But the Jets definitely need some tackle help. They can go in numerous different directions, and I think this is a good pick. And then going back to the Patriots, I don't think it's tackle, but I definitely think it's offense. They need offense. They need a playmaker. They need to get Mac Jones or whoever their quarterback is some weapons. And I think they stay in state. I don't think they leave. I don't think they go to USC. I think they go and they stay and they get the little guy out of Boston College and Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers with the ball in his hands, man, does he have big playability? The route running slightly inconsistent, but he's quick, he's smaller, but he catches the ball, and I really didn't see a lot wrong with him. I think the wide receiver class as a whole is not as great as last year's, but like this is a guy that's really good, and I think the Patriots wouldn't go wrong with taking him.
Yeah, I think it is the worst. Brett Coleman tweeted this. It's the worst kept secret in the league that the Patriots want Zay Flowers, and it is a great fit. He can play in the slot if you need him to. He can take screens. Mac Jones doesn't need to do all the work, and he can get deep too. They lack that vertical passing attack. They added that Thornton, right? That was the guy they drafted last year. He's got some speed to him, but he played like 4 games. So Mac Jones is throwing the nobodies a lot of the time. And whoever's back there, they need offensive help, and he's a great pick for him. Going to the Packers. Packers, they could just draft somebody from Georgia and call it a day, like they have been. But at this spot, Jordan Love's starting quarterback next year, and I love Jordan Love. I was high on him when he was coming out. He was in that draft with Tua and Justin Herbert and all that. But I think you want to continue to get him some help. And you have Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. They're going in their second year. That's some good weaponry as it is. But I think you want to go tight end here. And I'm going to take Dalton Kincaid at 15. I think he's the best tight end in this draft by a pretty decent margin, at least from a pass-catching standpoint. You've seen the comparisons to someone like Travis Kelce. And I'm not going to go that far. It's never fair to compare somebody to a Hall of Famer like that. But the way he can settle into zones, he's a great route runner. He's got sure hands, and he provides a vertical passing threat. He'll be that safety blanket for Jordan Love in a tight end room that's awful right now in Green Bay. And I like the fit. I think he's up there with the 3 wide receivers we've taken as a pass-catching threat.
Yeah, no. As a USC fan, I hate him. But as a NFL watcher, I love the guy. Yeah, Dalton. He's a great tight end. I think having the experience in cold weather also helps him out in that projection. Playing in Utah, I think going into Green Bay, I think it's a great fit, and I like the pick. The Commanders, I mean, this is an interesting team, man. I think it's underrated in the amount of talent it has. I don't think it is talented enough to be a consistent playoff team, and they're already in a difficult division. They've got Sam Howell, most likely the starter this year, and I hope the best for Sam Howell, but there's a lot of directions they go, and I wanted to take tackle here, but I wouldn't reach on any of the tackles, and I think you take the best guy available, which is Joey Porter Jr., which I talked about earlier. I see Richard Sherman when I watch him. He is long arms, pro style build, 6'2", 193. Obviously, there's problems with the change of direction and a slight miss on quickness. The tackles are a little uneven, but like he's got the NFL DNA. Like you rarely see a kid's son not be top tier or just be a complete bust. I remember Joey Porter Jr., the Joey Porter of the Pittsburgh Steelers in corner form. I think this would be a great pick and great value for the Commanders.
I completely agree. I think they go corner here. No matter who's off the board, whether it's Deontay Banks, whether it's Christian Gonzalez, whoever's here, I think Joey Porter is a great fit for what they want to do, that press man coverage corner. And he's a lot – I don't think people talk about it enough. I think he's great in zone. I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for in zone. And they switch it up there a lot. in Washington, so I think it's a good pick. And the Steelers, they're pretty sad. They want they wanted Joey Porter Jr. But they still need a defense. They still need a defensive back. As much as I think they need offensive linemen very badly, they still need defensive back, and they take the best player on the board currently, and that's Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez comes in again. One of those just Christian Gonzalez, not very good in zone, but that's not what they do over there in Pittsburgh. It's press man coverage, and I think that's what he's best at. I think it's a good fit. You know, it's 6'2", about 180. What is he? 180, 190.
Yeah, 1-1. Yeah. He's the skinnier type, but he's got some beef on him for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He's got that he's rangy. It's a good fit for Pittsburgh. They need a defensive back.
Yeah, so Detroit Lions again. I didn't think I was gonna get Jalen Carter, and I had one of my favorite prospects lined up for this pick, but they're not gonna go 2 D tackles in a row, and I think you go corner. Although I'm not sure about the fit, but I really like Deonte Banks, and I think that's going to be the pick here. You know, they took Jeff Okudah, 2-3 years ago. It really hasn't worked. Corner seemed to be a big need, and then they signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and then it seemed like everyone stopped talking about corner. They still need corner. They still need help in that secondary. And obviously, with 2 defensive picks, you're not helping Jared Goff out as much as you'd like. But, you know, they invested in Jameson Williams last year. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They can go another year without some help on offense. And I think Deonte Banks is the pick.
Absolutely. I think the fit works just fine. I think Deonte Banks is a very fluid, big athlete. I think he showed that off at the combine. And I agree, the Lions still need defensive back help. I've seen a lot of Lion fans on Twitter like, we're all good. We have Cameron Sutton on the outside. We're good now. And it's like, no, not quite. I think they could potentially go corner at 6, over Jalen Carter if they had those concerns about him. So I think it's a great pick, especially Deonte Banks, who is my cornerback 3. So I like him a lot. Going to Tampa.
He's my cornerback 3 too. I liked them all. I'm not a big Christian Gonzalez guy, and I really like Deonte Banks. I saw it at the beginning of the process, and then I think everyone's kind of seen it too. So I was hoping it was going to be my sneaky pick, but yeah, he's a great pick, and I think the Lions get lucky here.
Awesome. Yeah, no, going to Tampa. Tampa needs a lot. And, I think they're going to stay in state, and I think they're going to take an interior offensive lineman, and that's O'Cyrus Torrence. You could go a ton of spaces here. You see Brian Branch. I've mocked Brian Branch myself to them a couple times. You can see, Lucas Van Ness is still on the board. A lot of people don't expect him to fall quite this far. But kind of shore up this offensive line even more. It's kind of fallen apart the last couple of years through injuries, whether it's through free agency. Torrence is the best guard in this draft. Well, behind Skoronski, who's listed as tackle here, but I project him as a guard. He's right behind Skoronski. Again, he's a guy who's going to play in the league some people might say he's a bit undersized. I think it doesn't matter. I think the play strength shows. He's got great feet, great hands, and he's going to make this offensive line better than where it was.
Yeah, no, that's good pick. Good pick. The Buccaneers. I think they need tackle big time, but I don't think they're reaching either. There's a lot of holes, man. There's a lot of holes. They're gonna have a nice Rams rebuild along there in Los Angeles. But Seattle. Before I make this pick, I just want to say I love analytics and I love positional value. But I have them going linebacker here, and not just any linebacker. One of my favorite prospects in this draft, Jack Campbell out of Iowa. And I know before you say, this guy is a linebacker. He's not a linebacker. He's not a safety disguised as a linebacker. He's not an athlete playing linebacker. This is a linebacker. Yeah. And the Seahawks, I saw them in person last year. They are in dire need of help on run defense. And I know we took Peter Skoronski for them earlier. They need some help. And I think they could go edge here, obviously, if they don't get him at 5. They could go corner, and we obviously help them out on the interior line. But, man, Jack Campbell, I love him. 6'5", prototypical build. I know they brought in Devin Bush and Bobby Wagner, but, he can sit behind him for a year. And this is a Pro Bowl. And I think at pick 20, no matter what the position is, if you can get a Pro Bowler caliber player, I think you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And I was going to take him at 23 if you didn't take him now. So This is my linebacker one. Drew Sanders was
Yeah.
for quite a while, but I changed my mind on Campbell. He's a man's linebacker, man. He's huge, and he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't have to start immediately. Although I think he probably will. I think they get him on the field probably more than Wagner as of right now. Wagner is not the greatest linebacker in the world anymore, and I think it's a great fit over there in Seattle. Going to the Chargers. I commonly mock Zay Flowers at this spot, but I am going to take Jackson Smith-Njigba at this spot. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is my wide receiver 2. And while he's not the fastest dude in the world, it really doesn't matter. He just gets open at will. He's going to play primarily in the slot. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams by himself is a threat on the outside. They might double cover him, and Keenan Allen, as much as he's not as good as he quite was, he's going to get the attention that he deserves, and Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to eat from the slot, and Justin Herbert, accurate passer, is just going to keep getting it to him. Get Justin Herbert the weapons that he needs, and I think it's really good value at 21. You could potentially see him go even earlier.
Yeah, no, the Chargers definitely need some speed in that wide receiver room, and even though according to the combine measurement, Jackson Smith-Njigba is not that fast, you can just see it from the film. He pops off. He's got the elusiveness. I think this would be a great pick for them. At 22, under the Baltimore Ravens, I have in all caps, whatever wide receiver is available. It is not very often you get an MVP quarterback, pay him what he deserves, and then get him a weapon. Obviously, Quentin Johnson off the board, Zay Flowers off the board, Jackson Smith-Njigba off the board. I'm a big Jordan Addison guy. I know we have differing views on Jordan Addison, but I think this would be a great pick. I know personally that Addison's from the Maryland area, so I think him going back home with Lamar Jackson, it'd be a complete different scheme fit going from Lincoln Riley's like air raid offense to Todd Monken's play action style. But I don't think we're going to see what that Georgia offense with the Ravens. I think it's going to be mixed up some more, and I think Jordan Addison's a great wide receiver. He reminds me a little of Devontae Smith. The build's a little worrying, the lower legs with the size of the lower legs, but he's got speed. He's got after the catch ability. I think this would be a good pick at 22.
I agree. I just go get a wide receiver for Lamar after you pay him, please. For all we know, these guys could be picking at 4 after trading Lamar and taking a guy like Anthony Richardson. I mean, at 22, I don't have a first-round grade on Addison, but I agree. I think you need to go wide receiver here. Then all of a sudden, that receiver room looks better. You have Rashad Bateman, who I was high on when he was coming out. You now have Jordan Addison. You still have Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely in that 2 tight end system. It's a good pick over there. For the Vikings, I think they are running this pick up to the podium. I'm taking Brian Branch. Brian Branch in this Brian Flores system is going to flourish. He loves his slot cornerbacks, and that's primarily where Branch is going to play. And the thing with Branch is you can play him all over the field, which, again, very good for Brian Flores' system. Great man coverage, fundamentally one of the best, you could say, corner safety prospects in this class. He knows exactly what he's doing. Maybe not quite the athlete you'd like to see at that position running. He's not the fastest dude in the world. We all know that. But again, you're going to put him in the slot. He's a great tackler. He's going to eat in that position with the Vikings.
Yeah, man, did I want Brian Branch to fall to 24. The Jaguars, originally I had them lined up for Osiris Torrance. I think they need some help on the interior offensive line, and they really need help in the secondary. But right here in this spot, I think they take the best guy available. And I know we have completely differing views on this guy, but I love Kalijah Cansey. I think this is the pick. I know everyone's going to say it's Aaron Donald. I don't think of him as Aaron Donald. If this guy was 6'4" with a little more pounds on him, he would be a bona fide top 10 pick. And don't overthink it. He plays bigger than he is. The arm size is my worry. The length of the arms, like he definitely with a longer guard can get strapped. But man, does he go after it? He is the best player on the field every time you turn on that film, and I just like him a lot.
Yeah, I definitely worry about his size at the NFL level. I think he could potentially rush off the edge if he needed to. But yeah, on film, it's all there, man. The play strength, you see it. He's manhandling dudes, just pushing them back 5 yards. I think it's a good pick. They need interior defensive line help, and it's not just the run defense. I think the run defense was overall just fine last year. It's that interior pass rush, and there might not be a better interior pass rusher in this draft. Going to your Giants, they're in an interesting spot. You were really hoping. I think I was hoping for a wide receiver to fall here, and they didn't, despite the people they've added in free agency. So at this spot, positional value, it's a thing. I'm gonna go center, and for me, my top center is Joe Tippmann. So I'm gonna take Joe Tippmann in this spot. He is, he's bigger than your average center. He's almost built like a tackle, and he is just so athletic. Whether you need him to pull, whether you need him to push, I think it's the top center, and I think it's a position you guys desperately need.
Yeah, no, we definitely need a center. I completely agree with you. Obviously, I would like a wide receiver to fall, or I'd like one of the top corners to fall, but we definitely need center. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not a big Joe Tippmann guy. I would much rather see John Michael Schmitz at this pick if we were to go center. But yeah, it's a smart pick right here, and I think I'd be fine with Joe Tippmann here. I think with 26, I got the good old Dallas Cowboys. And I think, I look at the Cowboys thinking maybe another safety, a defensive line. But I throw out all trace of thought here. Jerry Jones is going to be sitting on his leather chair in Arlington, Texas. He is going to be thinking with his heart and not with his brain. And he is going to take one of the best offensive players in this draft in Bijan Robinson. I think Bijan Robinson is a first-round running back. Do I think he is a Saquon Barkley-esque type guy? No, not at all. But he's a great runner. He's physical. He is an abysmal pass blocker. That popped off. I couldn't believe how bad it was. But without that being said, he's going to get a year to split reps with Tony Pollard, who's on that franchise tag. And then you'll get to see probably after they part ways with him next year, like the full Bijan show. But I mean, this is a guy that has been breaking records since he was in high school. I followed his recruitment coming out of Arizona, and he's a good prospect. And like, I'm not going to be happy to see him twice a year as a Giants fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's a pick. I'd go again, thinking with your heart, not with your brain. But the running back is technically a need because Tony Pollard is most likely not going to be on contract by next year. And he comes in, he's one of the best players offensively in this draft. It's a good pick. Going to the Bills, I think you got to go right tackle in this spot. The guy they have there, Spencer Brown, I'm thanking God I've seen him twice a year for the past 2 years because he's not very good. And for right now, a lot of people say Darnell Wright's the pick here. He's not my top right tackle. It's actually DeJuan Jones, and I'm going to take DeJuan Jones here. I love DeJuan Jones. I love DeJuan Jones, man. He has better feet than Paris Johnson does at a bigger size. This dude is massive. He's huge. There are things he needs to work on, but he's a dancing bear. He's big feet. His hand placement's relatively okay. Again, guy that needs a lot of work, but we've seen bigger tackles and what they can do in the NFL if they do work out. Big guy, good athlete is the pick here.
Yeah, no, that I didn't see that one coming. I mean, they definitely need some tackle help. I mean, for being such a great team they definitely have some holes all over the place. They could go in a couple different directions, and I guess DeJuan Jones is the pick. We are really stacking up we have a lot of edges available, a lot more than I thought were going to be available at this time. The Cincinnati Bengals, they also could go in multiple different directions. I mean, they've drafted with their heart for the last 2 years, and it has worked for them. Somehow it has worked for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they went Michael Mayer here, the kid being from the Cincinnati area, then needing a tight end, but I don't think that's the pick. I think with all the edges available right here, I think they're going to go and just take the best guy and take Nolan Smith. I'm stunned that Nolan Smith reached pick 28 here, but I think that's just the pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Nolan Smith is a top 10 player on my big board. I love Nolan Smith. You know me. If I was the Eagles, I would have taken him at 10 personally. He is – people talk about his size. Look at the Eagles, what they had with Hassan Reddick this year. Guy had 17 sacks. It was crazy. And this guy's amazing athlete, a great person, and a great leader. I like it for the Bengals. Going to the Saints. my last couple mock drafts, Lucas Van Ness has fallen way farther than I think he should. And at this spot, I'm going to take Lucas Van Ness. You know what? They love – they're just going to take best player available. They love their developmental edges. And while I don't think Lucas Van Ness is primarily developmental, I think he comes in, starts immediately, makes an impact. He definitely needs to work on his bag of pass rush moves. But he's such a twitchy, explosive athlete. And I can't let him fall any further than he has, personally.
Yeah, no, I completely understand you. I'm having the same type of vibes right now. I can't believe Brian whatever, however you pronounce that last name, I always get it incorrect. I can't believe he's fallen, but I'm gonna stick with the pick that I had like written down from the beginning. I like this guy a lot more than a lot of people, and I think at pick 30, the Eagles take Keanu Benton, the defensive lineman from Wisconsin.
Ooh.
So this is what I see with Keanu Benton. Great run blocker, definitely needs to work on the passing. But I see Javon Hargraves, and I see a hole in the Eagles' defense on D-line. Obviously, they've got depth. And I said it earlier at pick 10. Howie Roseman has shown his love to develop offensive and defensive linemen. I think Keanu Benton's the pick here. And I know he's going to get some time behind Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis, and I think Milton Williams as well. But, like, come back 3 or 4 years, if he's a Pro Bowler, I would not be surprised in the slightest. I have him as a second-round player, but, like, pick 30, I mean, we can go anywhere. I really like the Brian Bresee guy from Clemson, but, like, I think this is just a pure fit type of pick, and where the Eagles are with the roster build, they have the ability to take on this type of risk with this pick.
Absolutely. I am also higher. I didn't expect him in the first round, but I am higher on Keanu Benton than a lot of people. I have him going in the second pretty early on. But wow, that was surprising. I like the fit. I'm surprised he went over Bresee. I
like him a lot. I think the Cowboys should take him. And it's funny because I keep like liking these players that fit so well with my division rivals, but I don't see a fit for him, and it's really difficult to say because I do think he's a first round talent. I think the film prior to his ACL tear is just awesome, and I think he's had this past year he went through so much trauma where he should be able to get picked by now, but I think Keanu Benton's the right pick here.
Absolutely. Now, going to the Chiefs, I think they just lost both their starting tackles. They added the kid from Jacksonville. I'm blanking on his name right now, but they paid him a lot of money, and I think he's a good player.
Yeah, Jawan Taylor, right?
Jawan Taylor, that's right.
Yeah.
Taylor. And whether or not you want to play one of them at left tackle, one of them at right, I am going to take Darnell right here. Just solidify that offensive line, protect the best player in football, and he's going to get you good things. He always will. And I think Darnell Wright has a chance to go a lot earlier. And that is the first round of the draft. Here, hold on. I accidentally picked 2 rounds, so I'm just going to press draft on all these guys so it comes up at the end screen.
All right.
All right, now we're to the end page. This is the first round mock draft from the 2 of us. I think it ended up pretty good. Couple surprises with Bresee not being picked in the first round and Keanu Benton. Other surprises, Jack Campbell too. Maybe Skoronski went a bit high for some people. I think it ended up pretty good. I think this is it's not realistic. There's going to be some trades. There's always going to be. But I think we did a pretty good job with what we had.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty satisfied with my picks. I agree. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you, Ethan, for joining me. I had a great time.
No problem. I was happy to come on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. All right, bro. Well, thank you so much.